Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So today's video is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be how to edit in the style of Peter McKinnon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take a photo that I would not necessarily say is in Peter McKinnon's style, and I'm going to try and twist it to make it look like Peter McKinnon's style. Now, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've had a lot of people asking me how to do this because they have a lot of photos that aren't necessarily in the similar format or similar style as Peter McKinnon's, but they want to know how to make it look like his photos. So that's what I'm going to be teaching in today's video, so I'm looking forward to that. So basically, that's what we're going to be doing. So this is the photo that we're going to be doing. I've got it up here on my laptop. Pretty cool photo. What we're going to be doing is trying to get this high contrast, high clarity, wet feel to the image, and we're going to hopefully take it into Photoshop and see if we can get some of this rain as well, but we may not get time to do that in this video. Okay, so let's just get into the video. So this is the photo we're going to be editing here. Sorry, this is the photo that we will be editing in this style here. So obviously, as you can tell, this is nothing like that photo. If anything, I would say that this photo that I took, this one I took in Edinburgh, just kind of like an accidental photo, I would say is a really bad photo, but we're going to see if we can turn it around and turn it into something that's going to be pretty decent. If not, then I will just have to refilm the video on a different photo. So that's the plan. Let's just dive straight in. So first of all, let's just pick apart these kind of photos. First thing, a lot of contrast. Seems to be he puts in a bit of clarity, takes down those whites, definitely doesn't have a fade in the image, definitely got some blacks there, likes the blacks, a lot of oranges in the photo, pinks as well, so maybe he takes his oranges to the left a little bit. We can get out some green primary, push that across to the left I think, and maybe we can get some oranges out on the car lights that they've got here. Obviously I don't think we have many oranges there, but we've got some orange and raincoat over here, so hopefully we can get that similar effect. Got a bit of a vignette going on up here, maybe that was achieved with the brush tool, not sure. That's pretty much it. That's basically the breakdown of what he's done in this photo. So boom, let's just get going. So here's the photo. First things first, as with this one, I want to get a bit of detail into the shadows there, so I'm just going to bring up those shadows all the way up to the top, bring down those highlights, maybe not all the way down that far, maybe just brighten up the image, add in some contrast, take up those whites just a little bit just to brighten up the image, and I think brighten up those blacks. Next up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try and straighten out the image and zoom in on our subject, because there's a lot of dead space in this image that I really don't think is adding to the image very well. So let's just zoom in here, click done. Cool, so that's doing pretty well. I wonder what it looks like if I rotate it a little bit more, kind of line it up to the top of his head. Let's try doing it like that. I know it's not the best photo, it's not the best angles, it's all a bit crooked, it's all a bit off, but hopefully this might play to the image, it might make it look really quite cool. You never know, so let's just try it and see where this gets us. Cool, so that's just like the basics, before and after. Yep, we've definitely done something there. Cool, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come down to the clarity, and I am going to add in a lot of clarity to the image. So the reason why I'm doing that is because you can see in Peter McKinnon's photo here, he's got a lot of these bright whites and very, very, very dark blacks. Like that is pitch black down there. And I think a good way to achieve that is by adding in clarity to the image. So we want these blacks down here to be a lot darker. So maybe I might take down these blacks, bring up my whites a little bit more just to get that contrast in, and maybe just brighten up the image a little bit more as well, and take down my highlights all the way to the bottom. Cool, so next thing is the vibrancy and saturation. He hasn't got super saturated on the image. Like the whole image is pretty desaturated. He's just got different selected colours that have a lot of saturation. So the orange is really punchy and really saturated. So we're going to take down the vibrancy of pretty much most of the photo, and already we're getting this kind of desaturated, moody, high contrast photo that Peter McKinnon has. Okay, so coming down to the tone curve, I'm going to do my 3-point curve as I usually do. Bring up those highlights just to get, again, those really bright highlights. Bring down those shadows a little bit, maybe not, we've done quite a bit on the shadows. Bring up those midtones. Bring up the midtones is going to really help with this high contrast look. I think we're just going to bring down those highlights a little bit there. We're definitely looking very contrasty, so I think I am just going to bring back the contrast on the basic slider a little bit there. and I am going to take my whites down here just to kind of crush those whites. We don't want any glaring white. Cool, so before and after, essentially what we've done now is we've brightened up the whole image but still made it very contrasting and very dark. I'm aiming for, you see these areas down here on this guy's jacket to be very black, the same as Peter McKinnon's jacket here to be very dark. So I think we're definitely getting there. It's not identical, but it's an interpretation on his style. See what we can do with a photo that looks nothing like Peter McKinnon's. Next, actually, instead of doing the HSL sliders, I'm just going to skip a few steps and come down to the camera calibration. So, do you remember when I said I'd come down to the green primary and see if I can have a play around, see if I can get some really bright oranges out of this image? I think we can do that by bringing down the blue primary, bring up the red primary. This might give us a bit of an orange and teal look, which is not really what I want, but okay, there we go, boom, we've got out some really nice oranges. I think I'm just going to bring down the saturation there, bring up the saturation of the red primary. Okay, there we go, that's what I like. Getting in some of these really bright oranges here, just like Peter McKinnon had down here in his headlights. I know it's a completely different thing. We've got oranges where Peter McKinnon didn't have any oranges, but you know, we've got to work with what we've got. Brick colour down here, kind of more towards the pinky tone. Again, the same as ours. Up here, that sounded a lot like a Lamborghini. So, I do apologise about that. So that's what we've got so far. Now I'm going to come up to my HSL sliders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to desaturate everything apart from the oranges. I think that's what could make this image look pretty good. So just for starters, let's just bring down everything else. Desaturate most of the image. Boom. Which one? Where are the oranges? That's the question. Okay, so we've got those up there. Bring up that. Maybe bring down those. Okay. I think, guys, we're getting closer to the look. It's not identical, but it's definitely very similar. You know, what we've gone for is we've gone for this very high contrast photo, and we've picked a colour, like the orange, like Peter McKinnon shows here, and we've brought it out of the image and made it a little bit more saturated. What we are also going to do is take our orange slider and bring it down to the left a little bit, just to make it a little bit more pinky, like we were talking about, and maybe the yellow slider to the left a little bit as well, just to take a bit of the green out of the oranges. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. I'm going to come down to the oranges and just brighten those up a little bit. And the yellows, so before and after, guys, look at that. We've definitely made a big change to the photo. Now, in terms of the split toning, I think we're going to have a go at adding in some oranges to the highlights as well. You see by his face here, it looks like there's some oranges on the highlights and some darker blues in the shadows. But I may be wrong, we'll try both and see what happens. So I think adding in some oranges to the highlights. Let's try that. And then adding in some blues to the shadows. I'm holding down Alt on my keyboard here just to get the dark, just so I can see what colour I'm kind of applying to my shadows. Cool, guys, so there we go. That's definitely added something really quite cool to the image. I wouldn't say it's entirely the style of Peter McKinnon. I would like to preface this, guys. It's very difficult to copy someone's style exactly when you haven't got a photo that's, you know, exactly like theirs, because, you know, it's very difficult to replicate all the conditions that he had, all the car lights, you know, the colours of the buildings, when we have none of that in our photo. But we can definitely get a pretty good interpretation. Another thing I'd like to point out is Peter McKinnon's style changes quite a lot. I mean, look, this one here, for example, has got really bright, vivid greens. So if he was to edit this in exactly the same style as that rain photo, these greens would be a very bright orange, which obviously he doesn't like doing. The key thing that Peter McKinnon uses in all of his photos is a lot of contrast. He seems to fade out the whites quite a bit and darken the image down, and he seems to like putting in clarity into a lot of his images, not all of them, but quite a few of his images. So you can get a very uniform theme just by doing that kind of thing and having very different colours. You know, everyone thinks that your theme has to be completely uniform if you have identical colours, but that is not always the case. So back to this photo. So that's what we've done so far. I'm just checking. You know what I think we can do is I think we can bring up those highlights. I think we haven't really got our whites and our blacks, you know, kind of juxtaposing each other enough. I don't think there's enough contrast in the image. So I am going to just kind of play around with that a little bit, maybe just brighten up the image. bring up my highlights and my whites just a little bit. Okay, so that's a little bit better, I think. Cool, so now let's just scroll down. Boom, I think we've done pretty much everything we can do. Highlight priority, we're going to put in a bit of vignette onto the photo. Not much, but just enough. So that should just darken the edges of the images, just like he's done here. He's got a little bit darker the edge of the images. Okay, so it's close. I mean, if you put these two next to each other, skin tones now are very similar. We've got a lot of these dark patches down here. We've got these bright oranges, especially here, works really well. Colour the bricks, same as the colours of the bricks over here. Faded out those whites, faded out our whites. Boom, boom. I think we're pretty much there, guys. This is pretty much done. Cool. So let's call this done. What I'm going to do now is export this photo and just drag it straight into Photoshop. Boom. Okay, so I've got this now straight into Photoshop. All I've done is just exported it, dragged it into Photoshop, and now we're ready to go to kind of create this rain effect. So the way I like to create the rain effect is I will get a brush tool. You can go ahead and download some star brushes. You can make your own star brush. I've got Flern's star brush here. Really quite a useful brush. Definitely recommend checking out his stuff. Really quite cool. I've made my own as well, but essentially what you can do is make sure your opacity is up to 100%. Take your brush size fairly large and just brush in some what look like stars. I know it looks very, very strange, but I'm hoping this is going to work. I haven't tested this, but fingers crossed it does actually work. Once that's all brushed in, what we're going to do is we're going to come up and we're going to blur this with motion blur across the image, and hopefully it's going to give us a really quite cool rain effect. So come down to blur, motion blur, then we're going to change the angle to coming down through the image and increase our distance. Cool, so let's have a look at Peter McKinnon's. Okay, so his is coming down almost vertical but just off at a slant. So come back to ours, let's do the same with ours, straighten it up, just like that, maybe blur it even more. Okay, cool, so that's that. Most of the rain done. What we are going to do though is create a secondary layer. So one layer which gives us the big rain droplets, and then we're going to do another one which is going to give us the small rain droplets. So just take our size down even smaller, and then do the same thing again, get our brush tool, add in a load of these stars, random brush strokes all the way across the image, and then that will essentially just give us most of our rain. Okay, so let's just keep brushing in. We want to make sure we have quite a lot of these because they're quite small. Maybe just go around changing the brush size a little bit as well, just so you get a nice range of sizes, but nothing too big. Okay, let's just try that and see where that gets us. So come down to filter, blur, motion blur, should be on the same setting as last time. Let's take our distance down a little bit because the smaller the brush, the more you blur it, the harder it is to see. So, okay, cool. So I think 15 was actually quite a cool number there. So put that down to 15, boom, straight away, definitely working quite well. Now the only trouble is with this is it's hard to see these. Once you blur them out, they become essentially more see-through. So to make it more obvious, you can just duplicate the layer, and essentially what we'll do is just overlay a second layer over the top of it, just to kind of make it a little bit more obvious. So there we go. That, guys, is the photo pretty much finally edited. Let's put that full screen so you can see it there and compare it to Peter McKinnon's. Definitely very similar. I mean, it's not identical. You're not going to be able to get the exact look that Peter McKinnon got, but that is just kind of the techniques behind how Peter McKinnon can edit his photos. Essentially, high contrast, add a bit of clarity into it, choose a colour that you want to make it pop, which is like the orange in this case, desaturate everything else, and then take it to Photoshop, put in some fake rain, just literally how I showed you. Let's ignore that. And you can see how simple it can be. Very, very simple, but you can get a very cool effect to the image. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed the video and you learnt a couple of tips. Maybe you didn't learn anything, maybe you just enjoyed yourself, but that doesn't really matter as long as you had a good time. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget, check me out on Instagram, that's at Matthew_GKB, and my brother at Sebastian_JWB. Would love to see you guys over there interacting with us. We do polls, go live, do stories. and all that stuff would be really cool to see you guys over there. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys want to see any videos on like business related things, making your own e-commerce store, anything like that, let me know down below in the comments. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Live long and prosper.